So we have Republican elected officials showing their true colors yet again. They are all in, full speed ahead with bringing back child labor. I wish I was joking. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is. So here, More Perfect Union is reporting. Breaking, the Iowa Senate passed a child labor law before dawn today. So they did it like super late at night / early in the morning. The bill lets 14-year-olds work 6-hour night shifts. 14. 15-year-olds work on assembly lines, and 16 and 17-year-olds serve alcohol. The Senate went through the night and voted on child labor at 4:52 a.m. So, why are they doing this? Well, the answer is very simple. The businesses want cheap labor. The businesses want cheap labor. They want somebody to do the work, and they want them to do it for less money, and they want somebody who's not going to talk back, who's going to fall in line, who's going to listen to management. That's the whole point. So you have, workers are starting, in some instances, right? Workers are starting to get together, collectively bargain, unionize, ask for more, especially with inflation and all these issues. That's what they're doing. So the corporations are looking for ways around that. Ways to keep wages low and ways to get obedient, subservient workers. And this is their answer. Now the bill moves to the Iowa House. We recently investigated this bill and uncovered that it began in the office of Governor Kim Reynolds and was written by top corporate lobbyists led by the Restaurant Association. So this is how disgusting our politics is and how corrupt it is. They'll literally just have the lobbyists for big business write the bills. Like, wait, no, you're the government. Your job is to regulate big business, to put them in line, to put them in check, to play referee for the people. You're supposed to be representing the people. No, they just represent the businesses. They are actively on their side. And now they want to let them exploit children. This is what the Republicans are doing. State Republicans all across the country. So let's watch a little bit of this video. Look at how weaselly this smug little prick is as he's planning on bringing back child labor. Look at this. Watch this.
Do you have a quick minute to do,
what is it on?
Youth employment.
Oh, I'm going to pass on that.
That's Iowa State Senator Jason Schultz. He's the sponsor.
What's the matter, man? Why are you going to pass on? I thought you were proud of this. I thought oh yeah, I'm doing a good thing for the people of my state. It looks like you're embarrassed. It looks like this is disgusting and gross. Now, I don't want to comment on that because that makes me look like the tool I am. How does a guy like this sleep at night?
Most dramatic rollback of child labor protections in the nation, even if he doesn't want to talk about it.
No, I'm going to pass on that. I'm just kind of stepping back on that one. I'm going to not get into any conversations. I'm going to stay away from that, although you might find out later why. Oh. There you go. There's your tease.
Senator Schultz.
He looks like a kid who just got caught not doing his homework or cheating off somebody on the test. He knows he's wrong. Look at I can't talk about that because then I look like a total douchebag because I am a total douchebag and I'm super corrupt and I'm bought out by the restaurant lobby.
Clearly proud of his work, but as our investigation will show you, he's just one part of a shadowy national effort funded by big corporations and PACs to roll back child labor laws that have been in place since the 1930s.
Okay, so this is a big and important point. It was during the New Deal era that they came up with the child labor protections. In the arc of history, that's like yesterday. When you think of the history of this country and the history, more broadly of the world, right? It was only the 1930s that we were like, hey, maybe the 13-year-old shouldn't be working with a machine that could chop off their arm. So we just got these protections. Just got them. And now they're like, roll that back. Guys, look, this is what capitalism does. This is what capitalism does. Let's squeeze out every penny of profit for the robber barons. And all of the consequences be damned. That's the whole issue with what's called externalities. It's the unintended consequences of capitalism. So for example, classic example, you have a business and they don't get rid of their toxic waste and pollution the right way because it costs a lot of money to do that. So instead, what do? Dump it in the river nearby. If you poison the fish and then poison the people who swim in not my problem. Not my problem. I'm just trying to squeeze out every penny over here. This is what we're talking about.
States are considering changes to child labor laws as they try to fill jobs. Maine and Michigan lowered the required age to serve alcohol. New Jersey raised the limit on the number of hours teens can work over the summer. Minnesota.
All right, so I'm going to give you some more of these. So it's hard to keep track of all the child labor laws in the U.S. right now. We never thought we'd be saying that, but here we are. We never thought we'd be saying that, but here we are. How do we get here and what is going on? Child labor used to be common across the U.S. Children worked in factories and mines. That sounds good. For low wages, and enslaved children worked in homes and on plantations. After decades of activism, the federal government started to outlaw child labor in 1938 with the Fair Labor Standards Act. Again, the FDR era. Almost every good thing we have came from that era. And, of course, the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And LBJ, even though he was deeply personally racist, he actually signed bills that were good for people of color. But, every positive thing comes from, a very limited, time span. The FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act, established the first federal minimum wage, limited the work week to 44 hours, and laid out the first federal child labor laws. But now lawmakers and the corporations that fund them are trying to drag us backwards. 11 states have introduced legislation to weaken child labor protection. 11 states. Imagine you look at all of the problems we have in this country. All the problems. Millions of people don't even have health insurance. 45,000 people die every year because they don't have basic access to health care. 500,000 medical bankruptcies. Wages that aren't keeping up with inflation. Infrastructure that's crumbling everywhere. And these Republican politicians go, let's make children work. Let's do that. Jesus Christ. In Arkansas, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed a bill into law that dramatically expands the ability of companies to employ children under 16. The state doesn't even have to verify the age of children under 16 before they take a job. By the way, so what is their ideal? I'd love to talk to these people. What's your ideal? Would you let 8-year-olds work? Would you? Think about it. When it comes to, hey, shut up, fall in line, and work for the boss, they lower that age as much as possible. 12, 13, is that good? When it comes to giving people freedoms, like, hey, should you be able to drink a beer? Should you be able to gamble? That, they're like, go up at 21. Make it 35. Voting, higher. Look at what they think of you. Look at what they think of you. They want you to be a cog in the machine. That's what they want. Obnoxious. In New Jersey, Governor Murphy signed Assembly Bill number 4222 into law, which would allow corporations to employ teens, would allow them to work up to 50 hours a week. There's a bunch of typos in here. Lengthen the time between mandatory breaks and remove parental and school district consent to work. A Minnesota bill was introduced that would lift restrictions on hazardous work and extend work hours. Specifically, it would roll back requirements that bar 16 and 17-year-olds from working in construction. In 2022, Nebraskans voted to increase the minimum wage from $9 to $10.50 by the end of the year. This year, a Republican state senator introduced a sub-minimum wage for workers age 14 to 17, also called a youth minimum wage, an alarming euphemism. So in other words, the voters of Nebraska, very conservative state, but the voters were like, yeah, let's raise the minimum wage. And the politicians were like, yeah, that's nice, but let's introduce this new category where 14 to 17-year-olds can make less than minimum wage. So what are these businesses going to do? Hire as many young kids as they possibly can, because again, they don't want to pay adults a decent wage. This is all about capitalist exploitation. Call it what it is, man. Call it what it is. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. In New Hampshire, lawmakers voted to extend work hours for teens, lovely, allowing 48 hours of work a week in the summer and 35 hours a week during the school year. 35 during the school year. That's crazy. The legislation also lowered the age to bus tables where alcohol is served from 15 to 14 years old. By the way, guys, I'm letting you know, they're just getting away with what they think they can get away with right now. Give it a few years, they'll be like 12, 11. But nothing can compete with Iowa. There's a Republican bill which passed the Senate this morning at 452. We just talked about this one. Do politicians really think kids need a better work ethic, or do corporations want cheap labor? Let's look at who backs it. And then they go on to list all the different corporations that are bankrolling this move. And again, you see who the politicians really work for. It's certainly not the people. It's certainly not these kids. Right? All the rhetoric, protect the kids, protect the kids, protect the kids. Shut up and get in the mine. Shut up and work construction. child labor violations have exploded since the start of the pandemic, up 37% last year. Instead of cracking down, states are lining up to legalize the practices. By the way, so there's all these instances of all this child labor, and it was happening even before this stuff was more legalized. And, I mean, that's insane. Just to say those words is insane. But anyway, a lot of these companies, the government might release a report. Oh, look at child labor violations, bro. And it's like, what are you going to do about that? We'll get back to you on that. What? The most you ever get is a tiny, itsy-bitsy slap on the wrist that's a fine. Listen, man, if you're employing a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old working a hazardous job, by the way, they often get injured, right? Whoever made the hiring decision, or the boss, or the owner of the company, should be more than just a slap on the wrist. They should get some jail time. Really disincentivize people from doing this. This is what we always talk about, man. White-collar crime, it's always just, little slap on the wrist. A lot of people don't know this, but wage theft is a bigger problem than theft. So in other words, employers stealing wages from their workers is a much bigger problem than theft. But nothing ever happens to the people who do the wage theft, ever. They don't even get a slap on the wrist. We got to start really, you want to talk about tough on crime? Let's talk about tough on crime. Tough on white-collar crime. Tough on the crimes of the top 1% of the owner class, because you have to disincentivize them from doing this. And they're not. They're very incentivized, and they've bought these laws to do child exploitation. This is crazy. It should be a much bigger story. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.